Because of the way the game forces you to realistically construct plays on the pitch, no game is better complemented by realistic broadcast camera angles than PES.
Salah looks to thread it, and the shot! It's in!
The slanted view offers a unique perspective that pushes you to take shots you wouldn't take otherwise.
Well, there's no... It's Salah! Goal! A bright approach, isn't it? Yeah, so many fullbacks now just want to get forward, Peter.
Despite the high demand for the feature, and even though the game is best shown off from these angles, the game developers insist on making the broadcast camera uneditable by default, and it's such a smack in the face of console gamers. Thankfully, Nisa24 and Juice released their tools making it possible to edit the broadcast camera angles and save them for each stadium. We still can't change the field of view or control the way the camera moves into the pitch, so hopefully the game's developers make our lives a little bit easier next year. I want to first thank my Patreons who've been testing these angles the past month. If you'd like to be a tester for the upcoming La Liga angles, or just want to support these videos I make, you can join the beta testers through the Patreon link below this video.
Has a goal! And he gobbles up!
Now keep in mind that, as a rule, the lower the angle and closer the zoom, the more beautiful it looks, but the more difficult it plays.
Money!
But like all the views here, the radar at the bottom of the screen is essential to spot player runs behind the defense.
Right. Hits one!
Starting with Norwich City, the broadcast view from Carrow Road is actually not as low as I thought it would be. Now I did spend some decent time trying to conceal this protruding slab of concrete, but I found it to be one of the more playable cameras with an angle quite similar to Anfield, which we'll see later on in this video.
Room for a shot. Going for goal! Sticks it away!
Moving on to Villa Park, home ground to Aston Villa, the view starts getting a little lower, so it'll get some getting used to, but it still is zoomed out enough to be playable.
Has a pop! There it is!
The Vitality Stadium has probably the lowest view in the Premier League. While this low height leads to a few artifacts popping in the near crowd, it contributes to a more intimate action on the pitch, especially when you start getting used to playing this way.
It's a follow-up!
Vicarage Road is another stadium with a low view, but is way more playable thanks to a higher and more zoomed out profile.
Very little of the resumption of the second half. Has a pop!
London Stadium has probably the third lowest view in the league, but as you can see, it lends itself to lovely looking action that looks a lot better than with other standard views.
Real chance!
Brighton's Amex Stadium actually shifted this year to a much higher and more playable TV broadcast camera angle.
Well, you obviously have to give credit to the front men for the half-time lead, but I think the midfield can read. Mane with a shot! Oh.
While Southampton's St. Mary's has a kinda low angle but is zoomed out and more playable than the other low ones.
Up to meet it!
St. James Park actually has a surprisingly high and zoomed out view, which makes it very playable especially at night.
Firmino!
Although the stadium casts very annoying shadows during daytime that I hope the game developers to address soon.
Hoists it forward. Nice little flick. Now it's Mane. Mane hits one! Goal!
Everton's Goodison Park is also very playable, albeit a little lower than the angle from St. James Park. And even though it's one of the few stadiums with no issues seeing the action near the corner flag, you still might have issues seeing free kick takers.
Brilliant save from Alex!
Sellers Park is firmly in the low angle group, which again makes the action look better, but makes it a little more difficult to score compared to higher angles. Speaking of higher angles, Burnley's Turf Moor boasts one of the most playable realistic broadcast camera angles, which makes it easier to spot player runs and score spectacular goals.
Origi goes up and over. Firmino! And he's found it!
The Emirates Stadium has probably the most conventional broadcast camera angle, and I recommend this the most for newcomers wanting to explore broadcast camera gameplay. Tottenham's home games have probably the highest and most zoomed out views in the league, but I doubt anyone will have any issues constructing beautiful goals from open play,
Firmino hits it!
as well as from free kicks.
Oh, that's...
Sheffield United's Bramall Lane also boasts a high and very playable angle.
Who's ball? Who's going to get there? And Firmino!
As do the Wolves playing in the Molineux, where the high zoomed out angle has you better appreciate the end-to-end action of this year's game.
Through Mohamed Salah. It's Salah! That is gorgeous!
Like the Emirates Stadium, Old Trafford has a very traditional broadcast camera view, through which you get to appreciate De Gea's heroics, as well as double agent Pogba as he slows down to allow Mane to score.
Mane. Real chance!
As I said, the lower the angle, the more beautiful the gameplay, and nothing shows off the beauty of PES gameplay like Stamford Bridge. It takes a lot of getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, any gameplay shot in the stadium will look at its best.
The work rate has been superb. Very, very... He's gone for it!
King Power's view is probably on the lower side, but the zoomed out view aids with its playability.
Has a hit!
City's Etihad has one of the higher and more playable views. You definitely will need a view this playable when trying to outmaneuver City's speedsters with your own.
Mane has a goal!
Especially that when you're playing City, every inch you gain makes all the difference.
Tries a shot! Really?
Finally, Anfield's angle combines the playability of higher zoomed out stadiums with the realistic look of the lower zoomed in ones. It provides a view wide enough to pick out your player runs through defense,
Thank for the last result. Shapes to shoot! Big moment!
as well as a decent view of the 18-yard area that makes long-range efforts a whole lot more feasible.
Mane hits one!
La Liga is almost ready, but I'm missing a few stadiums that I'll be downloading through the link below. So that's it for now, and see you in the next one.
And